So just quickly, let's get your views as to what you're making of this trade spat, the beginnings of a trade war between Beijing and Washington, and how Indonesia fits into that, and your view of what may well happen in Southeast Asia as a consequence.
Yeah, of course, the trade war will not be good for, a global situation. And certainly it will include Indonesia. And we have to see what kind of barrier that has been put by the US against everybody, especially against China. But from our perspective, if there is a kind of barrier from US to the export from China, what we have to anticipate is the possibility of the shift of the Chinese export product to other parts of the world, including Indonesia. And we already have a trade deficit with China, and certainly if there is more shift of the export from US to other parts of the world, including Indonesia, of course that will be a big challenge for us, because then not only Indonesia, I think other parts of Southeast Asia will have to anticipate how to deal with this effect of the trade war.
Do you think that you'd be put into a position that you might have to take sides?
I don't think we need to take sides. Most important thing is we have to take a look about our export competitiveness ourselves, because we have to check what will be the impact from this trade war between US and China to our export as well as import situation. And from our side, it's better to increase our export competitiveness and make sure that we can maintain the trade balance, because in the last couple of months, we experienced some trade deficit because of increase of import, especially import of capital goods. So when this trade war happens, we have to check whether the possibility of the future trade deficit will still be caused by the same reason, increase of import of capital goods, or could be because of something that is more related to the trade war between China and the US.
Minister, you have a huge infrastructure problem, I suppose, there in Indonesia, and you're getting to grips with it. You need investment. We've had, of course, China come in and put in a lot of money into various projects taking place. Does that money from China come with strings attached? That's one part of my question. And the United States ambassador to Indonesia has actually complained that that Jakarta is foregoing billions of dollars of investment from American companies. So just walk me through all that.
Yeah, I think I have to clarify that we welcome all the foreign direct investment in infrastructure in Indonesia, not only from China, but from basically everybody. In fact, when I did the roadshow, including to US, Canada, Europe, Japan, South Korea, Australia. So basically, we try to invite everybody. But of course, we will welcome who will come first and who will be ready to come to invest in Indonesia. And in our experience, this is about investment. So no string attached. So, and the agreement that usually made between the government and the investor is just a standard agreement between government and private sector, in which the private sector from, let's say, from other countries got the concession for a certain period of years, and of course with some clause regarding the about the performance from the investors, as well as the regulation that has to be imposed by the government.
Minister, the US also recorded a trade deficit with Indonesia of $12 billion, and Ambassador Donovan had called its imbalance persistent and significant. Are you worried that, given the environment that we're in, Indonesia might end up being a target for some of these protectionist policies or criticisms?
Well, yeah, of course, we were aware that Indonesia is part of the watch list when President Trump mentioned about, I think, 16 or 17 countries that under the watch regarding the trade deficit. But we have to look at the type of the trade deficit that happens between Indonesia and the U.S. And I believe some of them related to the natural resources and some others related to the kind of labor-intensive manufacturing type of product. So I believe things still can be resolved between Indonesia and U.S. and I think U.S. is targeting, of course, the bigger fish rather than trading with Indonesia.
Minister, will there be any loosening on the negative investment list and these restrictions or requirements to use locally produced materials?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
The negative investment list, will there be any easing for those requirements, particularly with these requirements that foreign investors need to use local materials?
I think we just revised, I think a couple years ago, I think a year ago or 2 years ago, regarding our negative investment list. And I think we will still stick with the requirement of using the local materials because the sign is we still invite the foreign direct investment in the broader term, in more sectors. But of course, at the same time, we would like to empower our local manufacturing and services. So I think that kind of balance is still needed for Indonesia in order not only to attract investment, but also to empower our manufacturing sector.